I think with that, we'll call the Health and Human Service Committee to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Thank you. Public comment. Do we have any public comment today? Okay. Approval of the January 7th, 2026 Health and Human Services Committee meeting minutes. Motion. Supervisor Arstead. Second by Cavelli. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 5, operational functions required by statute, ordinance, resolution, or policy. Discussion and possible action by Health and Human Services. Request to approve $50 donation from Russell and Jane Tonelli into the Marathon County Veteran Services Commission. I did call Mr. Leonard on this one already about a more efficient way to do this in the future, but we thank Russell and Jane for their donation. And with that, I'll turn it over.
Sure, and actually I'll very quickly move it over to our VSO, Aaron Galindo, to talk through kind of the process and kind of what led this here. But suffice to say, there are some times that whether it's an ordinance or a state law, it might contribute to a bit of inefficiency. And this is one of those situations in my estimation. State law requires if the budget, if any expenditure line in a budget is increased, it needs to go through the board for a budget amendment. Whether that's $1, $500,000, or in this case, $50. So as was alluded to the fact, we did receive a donation and certainly thank the individuals for doing it. And Aaron can talk through what the Veteran Service Commission is. But the process that we need to go through under our current board rules is such that because the expenditure budget is increasing, it needs to go through an approval process by the board that's also required by statute. At 6590 relative to the budget, and the board is required to accept donations under, I'm not going to know the specific subsection, but it's within chapter 59. So with that, Aaron, you want to talk through what the Veteran Service Commission is and how the funds that are in that fund, the Veteran Service Commission fund, are used, and then the donation.
Yeah, thank you. So the Marathon County Veteran Service Commission is a requirement by state statute that we have the commission. There's no requirement that the county has to provide funds for that commission. We just have to have one. So previously, we weren't really getting any funding. It was all through previous funds that had been in that account over the last 15 years during the Scott Berger era, prior to me and prior to Jill. Generally, what we try to do is not have the donations come to our office, and we try to have them go to other local organizations that have less red tape and a little bit less restrictions on where the money can be spent and how it can be spent. The issue we run into sometimes for the veterans who are in immediate need for assistance, whether that's last minute rent because of injuries at work and not being able to pay their rent or pay their mortgage or vehicle payments, things like that. The issue we run into is most of those companies that they owe that money to, in my experience, don't want to complete the W-9s to be on file with the state for the county then to write those checks. So the commission is a one-time assistance. We consider it a hand up, not a hand out. If the veteran isn't able to continue making that payment after that one-time assistance, we try to refer them to other organizations because our coffers are quite shallow. So it's been really beneficial. We have a lot of veterans who do need assistance. For example, last year, Man of Honor Society provided over $80,000 to just Marathon County veterans to help them with rent, vehicle payments, utility bills, things like that. Our requirements for our service commission based on prior to me taking over it is the veteran has to be a resident of Marathon County for a minimum of 6 months, and they have to make less than the poverty threshold to get the assistance. That 6-month requirement was put in place because many counties surrounding us, and Marathon County included, was having issues with veterans going from county to county getting assistance and just going over the border to the next area and doing that. So we have some requirements for that. This donation came in the mail. There was no correspondence. We just got a check in the mail. So normally I would have kind of deflected it and said, if you can give this to Man of Honor Society or the Elks Club or whomever, that would be really appreciated because it'll still go to veterans. We didn't have that opportunity. This veteran and his spouse that donated it is a veteran who through our office got service connected with the VA and is receiving monthly compensation and likes to pay it back, so.
All right, so again, happy to answer any questions about the Service Commission. As Aaron said, that pot of funds within that Service Commission is available. People make application. The Service Commission is made up of 3 individuals that are appointed through your board process for appointments. I offer names. You consider them and approve them as part of your organization after board elections. But suffice to say, when a veteran makes application and we expend those funds, it's not a self-replenishing pot. So we have strategies to do that, and we're working actually on bringing in a budget amendment as part of the closeout of 2025 to ensure that there are sufficient funds, at least for the next several years in there. But this came through the mail, and if you are so inclined, the appropriate motion would be to recommend modification of the, Aaron, are we doing 2026 budget?
Motion on the table. Motion by Supervisor Cavelli and a second by Supervisor Foot. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. B, discussion and possible action by Health and Human Services Committee to forward to County Board for consideration. At our last meeting, we talked about the homelessness and maybe possibly putting it in the comp plan. So the recommendation with possible action on adding homelessness to comp plan. And with that, I'll turn it over to Administrator Leonard.
Sure. And Lori will actually take all the heavy lifting on this, but we did go back and look at the language from your existing comprehensive plan, and Lori will walk you through that. But she's handing out to those people present. We have a recommendation for some pretty succinct language to, I think, accomplish the goal that was discussed previously at this committee, and she'll talk you through that, as well as some of the previous parts within the comprehensive plan that we talked about last time, those strategies that would ultimately could be moved if this is something you're interested in doing, and that is adopting some broad language relative to supporting efforts to reduce homelessness. If you support that direction, we'll move some of the strategies that were previously in other areas of the comprehensive plan that would more directly relate to homelessness. We'll move them underneath that broad goal.
Okay, yeah, I'll just add a couple things here. So as it exists in the 2026 draft right now, the question came up last time where homelessness is addressed. So it is addressed under Chapter 4, Objective 1, which is promote a variety of safe and affordable housing options that meet the needs of all community members. And then by going to Chapter 13 and looking at the strategies that support that, there's 2 strategies related to homelessness there, and that's what I handed out to you all and highlighted was those 2. But the question did come up about adding a specific objective. So Administrator Leonard and I discussed it, and our suggestion was to keep it really simple, and you could add an objective that says support efforts to reduce homelessness, and then we would realign the strategies under the correct objectives if you wanted to do that. The other thing we did is we took a look at the last plan too, just to make sure we looked at the 2016 plan to see if there was anything else missing. There is one more strategy I think that we were discussing that we should bring forth in terms of getting back into this plan, and that was develop an action plan to reduce homelessness and increase homeless prevention services. So that's kind of where we're at.
And just to build on that, I think that makes sense to, for lack of a better term, reincorporate that into this update of the comprehensive plan, because one of the things you've tasked me with, and the city has tasked Chief Barnes of the Wausau Police Department with, is working together on that strategic plan to address homelessness and lay out what the city and county roles are respectively. And we actually met this morning, the chief and I, and again, talked about moving that forward once we get to the public health coordinator position to address homelessness that was created through the budget, once we get that individual hired. So that is a high level of what we thought. Again, high points are incorporate a specific objective based on your discussion, and we have that draft language of support efforts to reduce homelessness, again, very broad, and then move some of the existing strategies that are currently within section 13, make sure we kind of realign those because they address homelessness, realign those directly underneath that objective, and then also make sure we incorporate the 2016 language relative to that action plan. So happy to hear what your thoughts are and modify that approach if you think it needs modifying.
So with that, I'd like to open that to Supervisor Conway and Supervisor Cavelli, because obviously as our designees on the task force, I'd like to hear what they have to say on it first of all, so.
So last time you said that maybe you were gonna meet, did that happen? Or?
We chatted and
I'm fine with this. I just might wanna make sure it doesn't get lost. And if we do the action plans like you say, I think that would be fine to keep it simple like that. Also though, if we do a specific one, there's not a lot of other counties that are stepping up like we have to address it head on. So I think that might be something to have like a celebrate sort of moment when we have metrics that, hey, we've reduced it by 50%, 75%, that kind of thing. Just what flows upward from the action points and strategic plan up to the actual objective or the vision statement kind of thing. There was a little resistance of changing it, which, this is fine as it is, but and if you would like to have a specific one, I would support that as well.
Sure. And thank you, Chair Boots. And I know the discussion that we had, we were moving in this direction anyway. So I think that, with addressing it this way, I think it moves us in the right direction. And I agree with Supervisor Conway on the metrics part of it. And I'm a data guy, right? KPIs. So if we have a KPI on addressing homelessness, we can put that in there as well. But I think that the coordination, the regional coordination is important, coordinating with the city as well. And I'm glad that you had that discussion with Chief Barnes to address that too. So I'm happy that the way it's worded right now. So I think we're heading in the right direction.
Anything else from the rest of the committee? Comments? Questions?
So up on your screen, just to be clear, we have put a draft together that puts an objective up front in Chapter 4, support efforts to reduce homelessness. So it sounds like you are liking bringing that forward. And then all these strategies still stay that we talked about. They'll just be parked under that objective. So, okay, just want to be clear. Okay.
I don't think we need a motion on that, do we?
I think you have somebody else.
Go ahead.
So, I'm sorry. This will go up in Chapter 4 at Objective 1, where it's already addressed, where homeless services is addressed already. Is that what you're saying?
We would keep the objectives that are up on the screen right now. So that would include the promote a variety of safe and affordable housing. It would include support efforts to reduce homelessness and then enhance community livability. I think those would become the three objectives in Chapter 4. And then in Chapter 13, where we elaborate on the strategies that support those two, B and C, that are highlighted on the page I handed out to you, would go under that, as well as develop the action plan.
So then we are adding an objective at this point.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize for
That's
the.
why I wasn't clear.
Yeah.
So
We are, right now, there had previously, I think Supervisor Conway pointed out, there wasn't a specific objective relative to homelessness in the comprehensive plan. So the request was, as we interpreted, like, hey, maybe that's a good idea. So we brought back language to do that. That is what's up on the screen as sub 2, support efforts to reduce homelessness. You do have in your current comprehensive plan strategies, and strategies, again, just to orient everyone, they live underneath the objectives. You do have strategies within the existing comprehensive plan that allude to addressing homelessness. And 2 of them, in fact, do live underneath that objective number 1 as it exists, promote a variety of safe and affordable housing options that meet the needs of all community members. Underneath that, you previously had things that called out homelessness. Based on your discussion last time, we wanted to beef up the references to homelessness by creating a standalone objective. Support efforts to reduce homelessness. Our plan would then be, if that's in keeping with what your direction is, we will take those strategies that maybe existed elsewhere underneath other objectives that related to homelessness, but move those more directly than underneath the homelessness objective itself. So calls out, I think, I don't want to read in too much to your comments, but we understood your comments to be really highlight that work and that focus. So this would do that. It would create that specific homelessness objective and then put the strategies underneath it.
So the way I'm seeing this is one way, we're keeping as is. Otherwise, we're making an actionable item where we're adding chapter 4, community, well, we have chapter 4, but community character is a separate item. So those are our 2 options, if I'm hearing that correctly. Because this is a new one now, so we would have to make that an actionable item.
Yeah, and you would make that recommendation to the exec.
So those are the 2 options. We could leave as is or add the objective. Go ahead.
I'd make a motion to add the objective.
Motion on table and a second by Arstead. So further discussion on that. Go ahead, Supervisor Foote.
The only question I have about it is if we make it an actionable objective, does that then take away from the other things that are also in chapter 4, such as migrant housing, rural housing development? You know what I'm saying? Does that then make it seem like that's really where we would like to always put our money towards, is homelessness housing, as opposed to other housing? You see what I'm saying? That just makes it a little bit more important. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that is what we're then saying, that homelessness housing is more important than all the other.
Can I offer, if I may, Mr. Chair? I think remember, government has a lot of plans. You have a lot of plans. You have big plans. You have comprehensive plans that are 20-year looks at things that may be priorities for a county. You then drill that down into your strategic plan, which is again a 5-year frame of reference. And then even beyond that, you identify through your annual work plan approval what you want staff to work on. So I'm not disagreeing with you that you're calling attention to something. That said, I don't think you don't put one thing above another until you really get to the annual work plan. For me, when you tell me what you want us to accomplish, you are absolutely putting those things above other things. In fact, if you look at the executive committee agenda that's going to be coming out in a little bit, even my annual work plan, the board ultimately prioritizes that, because everything you want me to accomplish in an annual work plan with all of our staff, we're not going to get that done either. But you try to call out those specific things that, hey, put your efforts here. So this is just saying it's an area of potential focus, but it's not, through a comprehensive plan, you do not assign any resources to anything. You assign resources through your annual budget, through your annual work plan adoption, and then any modifications to either of those things. So I think it's a very good conversation point and a good thing to raise. But at the end of the day, this doesn't allocate any resources.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, he must have been an attorney at some point. I was just gonna say this is the high end and we go all the way down to what we're actually working on. That's the 2-second version. Sorry, Lance. All right, we have a motion made in second. Further discussion? All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, we will, with that, 6 educational presentations and committee discussion, Marathon County 2026 Comprehensive Plan Draft. Turn that over.
Okay, so I think this is just back on your agenda again to put out there if there's any other items you wanted to discuss in the draft or any other comments you wanted to bring back to the executive committee. They're asking for them again by next Thursday, February 12th. So you can certainly bring suggestions forward as a committee as you want, but as an individual supervisor, you can also forward your suggestions as well. Is there anything else in the plan anyone wanted to ask questions about at this time? Or make suggestions on?
Yeah, so we're just rolling this over every month. If we have any more suggestions, again, like she said, we can offer them at any point. Just a side question, maybe I'm hoping this covered under our item, but are we gonna do the same thing, Chair Gibbs, as far as, are we gonna do once the comprehensive plan is adopted or we're good with it, are we gonna kind of do the same thing where we're gonna go back into and look at our new strategic plan after we get that done with the work groups?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So once we update and adopt the comprehensive plan, then there is going to be a revision to our strategic plan. So everything coming out of the comprehensive plan, obviously because of the amount of items that are actionable, there will be, focus that will be the strategic plan. And again, the strategic plan is generally in a 5-year period, and you determine which items will be worked on by which standing committees. So yes, there'll be an update to the strategic plan at a future point.
And that was my question, and also I'd like to add to that, is, so are we doing it are we looking at kind of doing it the same way we did years ago, where we take the whole county board, we go in groups and we say, which do we feel are the ones we need to add, or how are you seeing this one? Is it the same, different? Are we doing it, or don't you know that yet, I guess?
I would say we haven't talked that.
Several discussion, okay. All right, I just wondered how we were gonna look at that.
Yeah, if you have any great thoughts on how you want that to go, I think staff will bring forward.
Well, and understand that the new board will be formulated.
correct.
In April, and so then the new committees will be formulated and so.
And they can change whatever we do anyway, yeah. So just so I don't know who was all on the board when we did this the first time, we took the whole county board and then we kind of went in little groups, and then it was like we discussed what we wanted to pull out of the comprehensive plan for the strat plan. And then we ranked them and kind of did it that way. And I was just wondering if we're doing it the same way or we're gonna try to reinvent the wheel again, but anyway.
Yeah, the goal right now with this is so next week, the executive will hopefully put forth a recommendation to finalize the plan for adoption. We'll put it out there for a public hearing that'll happen in March, and then it comes back to county board in March for actual adoption of the ordinance, so.
Okay.
And then you could pick up the next strategic plan in the next session.
Yeah.
So.
Any questions on all of that stuff we just discussed? Like I said, it's for the new board, the strat plan would be, I was curious. All right. With that, we have 7. Next date and time, announcements and future agenda items. Any announcements or future agenda items? All right. Community members are asked to bring ideas for future discussion. Next meeting will be Wednesday, March 4th, 2026 at 3:00, and I will take number 8. Motion made, motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.